Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Ushma Tyagi and I shall be your host today. We are back today with the second episode in a special edition of the Digital Dialogues, a strategic solutions webinar series sponsored by Dell Technologies, Microsoft, and Intel. Today, we will engage with IT leaders and solution experts from the world of retail, technical services, devices, and endpoint security for a better appreciation of how connected workspaces can foster business continuity, innovation, and help increase employee productivity. In keeping with the theme of today's webinar, we will start with a fireside chat with Mr. Piyush Chauhan, Group CIO, Lulu Group International, and Mr. Sesh Parigi, Vice President and Global Head Oracle, Consulting and Digital Service Line, Tech Mahindra, anchored by my colleague, Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer, Strategic Solutions. So now, without further ado, I hand you over to Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer, Strategic Solutions, to engage with our two eminent IT leader guests. Over to you, Arjun.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Digital Dialogues titled Reshaping Tomorrow. With the change in work models, organizations today increasingly are realizing that the established concepts of collaboration, innovation, and growth need not just to be accelerated, but to perhaps be decomposed. If the events and the situations of the last 10 odd months have shown us, with newer parlance to innovation riding pillion on security. The need of the hour clearly, as we will discuss in this brilliant panel discussion today, is to empower users to securely work on a device of their choice with the experience that they demand, while not compromising on strategic business metrics of growth, productivity, and resilience. And to join me in conversation today, please put your hands together to welcome Piyush Chauhan, Group CIO for the Lulu Group. Piyush, we are privileged to have you with us. Delighted. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
And Sesh Parigi, who is the Global Practice Head for Oracle at Tech Mahindra. Sesh, equally privileged, sir. Thank you so much. It's been brilliant.
Thanks, Arjun. Thanks for having me.
And I'm going to jump right into it because, Piyush, with your permission, if I could come to you, uh, if the events of the last 10 odd months, last 11 odd months have shown us something, it is that the traditional concepts as we use them, or the concepts of work, fairly stand decomposed. And perhaps there's been an emergence of newer jobs, newer roles, newer tasks that require persona-centric approaches. In in your view of and with the vista that you have available to you, how do you see the concepts of the operating model of work kind of evolving with the benefit of hindsight now that we do? Piyush Chauhan.
Sure. And I think let me put a little context here as to what I see as key kind of pivotal changes that are happening. So obviously, one of the key things which have happened is the gig economy was booming in the last 4 or 5 years, yeah, which was the trend. And what has happened is, and I think it needed the boost of COVID, unfortunately so, that this has pushed the adoption of the so-called gig economy by at least 4 to 5 years. Yeah. What it means is that what we would have seen in maybe 23, 24, 25, that time period is something is what we are seeing now. And the workforce itself is getting disrupted. So any place, anywhere, anytime working was only a theoretical context. Now pre-COVID, people used to have work from home policies. People used to monitor how many days you work from home, how do you monitor that, and boom, COVID came. And now all of the sudden, people did not know how to react to the new normal. So obviously, everybody was locked in at home worldwide, and it's the customer service provider, guys on the road, people like retailers, which had to make sure that you have to provide food for people. They need to do it in a very different way as they had to do it in the past. So everything, every nook and corner of everybody's life every nook and corner of everybody's workspace, every nook and corner of everybody's society, everything was disrupted and kind of impacted. So the first emergence of this adoption of gig economy has accelerated. People have now realized that workspace is not a constant. Yeah, it is a dynamic environment, it's a dynamic thing. Good or bad is a different question, but I think that is the new reality. Yeah. I have my own views whether and there are a few people who say that now, at least from the services company, people measure this so-called metrics of productivity per employee, and people would be very happy and delighted saying that the productivity has increased, but it is coming at a cost, and maybe that cost is something that can be talked about separately. But this new normal, I think people have kind of adjusted to the new to in the 9 to 10 months. I am not sure if this normal will continue as it is in the future, but the organization need to quickly reshape their policies. A lot of people are saying they will make. Some people are going on one extreme, saying that we'll make work from home or work from anywhere, where whatever they call it, a permanent phenomenon. Whereas some other who are saying that, boss, this is too extreme a position and too drastic a change. We'll kind of make it a balanced approach and we'll see how it evolves, and then based on that we can take a call. Time only will tell which is right or wrong, but the reality is that every organization which was not thinking in that direction is now thinking in this direction. And hence, all your underlying philosophies, your policies, your equipments, your security processes, your operational processes, everything need to be relooked at with the new normal. And I think that is the most important
Brilliant
part.
point. It's a very brilliant point and very powerfully articulated, Piyush, because I'm going to take that to say, Piyush, with your permission, I come to you. And
Mhm.
Piyush mentioned a very beautiful term, and he used the term adjustment. But with adjustment also comes a very important aspect of employee experience by itself. I, as an employee, you as an employee, Piyush as an employee, now that we work in a different space, which perhaps stands decomposed. How important is employee experience, and how do you see that evolving, as in the relationship between the employee who's remotely based and the organization that is working with human capital? What do you-
Employee experience has become much more critical at any time in this journey. What we would have seen pre-COVID into the post-COVID. So I would say what we call as an employee journey map will evolve over a period of time in the post-COVID, where it is the employee experience which will have a very critical play from a customer experience standpoint as well. Unless until there is a cohesiveness between within the employee experience and takes it to the next level, you will not be able to see the positive outcome into the customer experience world as well. So this leads to what you call as a digital dexterity, which will be the future part, keeping in mind the employee perspective, the redefinition of the workspace as well as the workforce model as well.
Interesting, very powerfully articulated. Because, and Sesh, I'm going to stick with you. Therefore, in the overall concept of a decomposed, so you have at one end a decomposed physical space, what traditionally used to be the office. And while I agree with what Piyush also mentioned, saying this does seem to be the norm right now, but the evolution, of course, remains to be seen. How important do you think, from an experience point of view, the device plays either a pivotal or a central role in enabling experience?
I would say it's a combination going forward. We need to envisage that new model going forward, which will redefine the workspace rather than going one way or the other. It is more of how do we redefine in alignment with customer expectation or the overall creating the employee experience for an organization.
Outstanding. Piyush, I'm going to come to you now with a question that begs importance, and I think that importance cannot be underscored enough. Uh, the establishment of the fact that data is oil or data is capital, and therefore its evolution to data as a strategic business asset, I think stands fairly well established and clear and present. But with volumes, copious volumes of data today being generated and residing at on the local interface, which is the endpoint or the device, how important does security become? Because at one end, you're trying to counter security threats. On the other side, you're equally working towards leveraging the data to become intelligence that will infuse resilience into business. How do you kind of, as a CIO, how do you map and plan that journey?
Sure, and if I may just want to take on from the previous question that you asked earlier, is that what will a device play a role in the future? I think that is a more pertinent question, and the word device is no longer relevant because it is devices and it is not a device. Yeah, because when you are working from anywhere, you obviously tend to log from multiple devices at multiple points of time.
Indeed.
So that first paradigm that, okay, if I were to create a very strong VPN tunnel with a device which the employee has been using, that itself is blown out of the window. Yeah, you cannot say that, okay, I will just allow anybody to access my corporate or enterprise data just from one device. I think that was a myth which a lot of large organizations had in the past, but I think that realization is coming that if you make that device very restrictive and very tight, it is going to hamper your productivity. Yeah, but having said that, you cannot leave it loose to say that, okay, now I will allow you to do anything anywhere. That also is a too extreme a position. So there has to be a midway path between these two, saying that on one hand you are not trying to bring in a very tight kind of boundary wall driven perimeter security sensing policy, such that you cannot move anything out of that perimeter, may not work. On the other hand, you leave it too loose, you have a risk of running out of data security and things like that. And to me, that is where the beauty of the trust factor lies. And I think organizations have to realize that when an employee is working remotely, how much ever processes and policies you put in, there is always a way for him or her to find a bypass. And that is why you need to make sure that you establish the trust factor with that employee, so that you are able to motivate the employee towards having a more secure way of accessing that data. Yeah, obviously there may be people who would have malintent, but that's a different topic in itself. But mostly I would say, if people trust, or if enterprises build trust with their employees, with devices being a, what is a device? A device is a connection between an employee and an employer. Yeah, that's how we see it. It's a conduit, so that you are able to channelize your information work, whatever you call it, between the enterprise and the employee. Now if you don't have trust in that channel that is being established, it is not going to work for either of the parties. And particularly in the remote context, you need to make sure that you build that trust. Now, obviously, just trust cannot solve that problem. So you need to have a very flexible security mechanism, and that is where a lot of these organizations are moving towards more cloud-based security solutions, which predominantly help you have that democratization of security paradigms, which are in the past, kind of I don't know if you remember, you used to have those RSA keys in the past, which you used to carry the laptop plus the RSA key, and then the life would not have ended anywhere, right? If you had one RSA key lost, and then you would have got another one, and so on and so forth. So those kind of security paradigms are totally out. The new security paradigms are coming in, which are more cloud based, much more democratic in nature, and that is where the future lies. And I think the faster the organizations establish their trust and move towards this more modern cloud native security solutions, it will be able to do a much better.
That's fascinating, because I'm going to pick on that, and Sesh, I'm going to come to you. Uh, Piyush spoke about the whole concept of trust. So I have a couple of questions for you. The first is, when you look at a zero trust kind of an operating model, especially in the kind of times that we live in today, where, well, from a security perspective, nothing is ever certain. You can't be secure enough. How do you see this whole concept of being adequately secure kind of converging with the whole concepts of flexibility, collaboration, uh, that employees or the workforce will require to focus on? So, how much should Big Brother be watching?
It's a mix of it. As you said, it is more of the cloud-based security models that's emerging faster. And of course, the key critical factor, I would say, would be the trust on the employee. And as I reiterated before, it would be the employee journey maps that we chart out, which plays a very critical factor from a trust perspective, leading to the emergence of those models from a security perspective. There's cloud transformation is picking up, and it's a paradigm shift that has happened in the last few years, but it has accelerated quite a bit in the last few months as we go through this pandemic.
Outstanding. I mean, that's an interesting perspective. Um, because my question, and Sesh, I will stick with you, is as new jobs, new roles, and new tasks stand created, how complex does the whole security paradigm or the security process become for organizations in today's day and age, and as we look towards the future?
It is going to be really complex. However, on the other side, it will be a hybrid between the existing systems and the adaptability of the cloud-based security systems. So that way, it is a complex journey leading to a much more secure environment for the future.
Interesting. Because, Piyush, if I may bring that to you, uh, is security has now increasingly becoming, and as you may be, and I'm presuming both of you, and I'm assuming really both of you are aware of it and living it. Security has now increasingly become a boardroom conversation also. It's no longer traditional what used to be an IT conversation. Therefore, from a security aspect, as the focus is reinstated on the concepts of being a secure organization from the data perspective, how do you see the metrics of security kind of evolving as we move into the future?
Yeah, and I think this, to me, security is a topic which obviously people are pushing very hard. It is obviously needed, but I have my own views in the sense that too much of security is not going to solve any problem. Yeah, it is the right level and the right mix. And what I mean by that is, if you want to cut off everything from everybody, you may seem to be very secure, but that is not the model that we are looking at. Yeah, it is not about that. You can say that I protect everything, anything and everything which an employee and an organization does. I'm trying to be very secure. I don't think that is what the intention is, or in any boardroom would be interested in doing that, because in today's context, information as such, although how much ever people may want, is more democratic in nature. There is democratization of data and information, how much ever we call it. Whatever is your, let's say, very, very so called differentiated SOP would be. So, for example, if somebody has done a very great way of DevOps strategy within the organization, to me, protecting that to the utmost level will not be the highest level of priority for any organization. But on the other hand, when my DevOps pipeline is running and large critical applications are running, how can I make sure that there is no business impact because of security? That is what I should be looking at, and not looking at securing a lot of documentation which is out there, a lot of processes which are out there. Because I remember a few years back when we were rolling out a very large kind of a transformation, 2.0 is a process transformation program in a very large organization, which was at that point had about 70-80,000 people. And the CEO said, we will now give this information to everyone. And then people said, oh, this is very critical information. This is something which has been uh, built on experience of the last 30-40 years of that organization, and you are giving it to everyone. There is chances of competition taking it, because one or two people may be misusing that data. And the one information that resonates still to me is that they can take this document, but if they don't know how to use this document, it's of no use. Yeah. So you have to understand what security means, and that is where I think people are kind of building in. So, for example, if I am running a large commerce application on the cloud, for me, the most utmost important would be there will be a lot of people with malintent all running around who would want to stop that from operating the way it is. To me, that to me is the most important part, and we should try to protect that as much as possible from those people who are trying to harm the company from a business and an operating model perspective, and let other people because information to me has to be shared across. You share information, other people share information, and that is how in the digital economy it's all about sharing ideas and information, and you continue to build that.
That's fascinating because that's exactly what I'm going to bring to you, Sesh, which is that in the overall concept of digital transformation at one end as a starting point, data and information democratization at the other end, or as part of the value chain, within DX, as digital transformation were to be called, how do you see the future of trust evolving, especially with the end point in mind?
When you look at the overall value chain, end-to-end value chain, the device modernization would play a very critical role from a security perspective, leading towards overall digital transformation, which is impacting or revolutionizing the way business models are emerging in the new normal, I would say. So from that perspective, you see it's a journey rather than a one-time effort. In the earlier times, security used to be a one-time event or a one-time journey or one-time application, I would say. Now it is a continuous journey. As the digital models evolve, security also evolves over a period of time as a part. It's a continuous improvement process over the journey of the digital transformation of the value chain. For example, I would say automation plays a very predominant role from a
Indeed.
security, and also the resilience in the supply chain or the end value chain also plays a very prominent role as far as security is concerned. And if you see, for example, during this process or this journey last 8-10 months, what we have seen, supply chain has emerged very much in a rapid evolution stage, I would say. So security plays a very critical role for many of the e-commerce companies, both from an inventory optimization perspective and a warehouse management perspective as well. So that evolvement is across the spectrum. It is not the security might be underlying one of the key elements. However, it is a part of the overall end-to-end digital transformation paradigm.
Interesting. Very, very powerfully narrated there. But I do have a view on the clock, gentlemen. We've got about 8 odd minutes left. And I'm going to ask you a couple of very, very important questions. And considering we've got a wonderful audience tuning in and listening to us today, Piyush, you and Sesh have consistently referred to this process as a journey, one that is certainly complex. From that perspective and from the perspective of the endpoint, considering the backdrop of what we've just gone through or what we're experiencing today, what is your essential guidance to organizations that are today planning that journey towards a more mature, a more evolved, secure future? What is your essential guidance on how they must navigate this journey in a resilient fashion?
Yeah, and it's a evolution, as rightly put by Sesh. It is not something that can happen overnight. It has to go hand in hand with your DX strategy. And I would encourage organizations to look at it, not security as appointing a CISO and then saying that now it is your job to figure out what is working and what is not. Rather than build it as part of your business strategy, and build a culture of security. Because to me, security, on one side, investing on a lot of the solutions which are out there is important. I'm not denying a fact, but just doing that will not solve the problem, because security as such has to be a culturally driven mindset within the organization. How do you make sure that you sensitize people towards information? How do you make sure that you are trying to build in for example, as a part of your DX strategy, you would try to move a lot of your applications to the cloud. Now, when you are building cloud native applications, how does security itself as an NFR, or as a requirement, go in as your backlog in the development process itself? How do you make sure that that culture is developed, so that you don't have security as an afterthought, but security as an inbuilt mechanism within your development process? And I think that to me is a more a mindset, culture, trust factor, whatever you call it. But I think it is the softer aspect which becomes so much more important, which will basically help you and drive that security agenda that the board is looking for. And not only saying that a CISO, you bring in a CISO and then he will write down a lot of documents and buy a lot of software. That may be effective to a certain extent, but I think if you do it this way, in which you imbibe security as a culture, it has a very, very long lasting impact, and it will be much more better.
Very beautifully put, isn't it, Sesh? Because I'm going to come to you. And I think Piyush narrated it immaculately when he said broadly that security has to be embedded in the fabric of the culture of the enterprise of the organization. That's easier said than done. In your view, Sesh, what is your essential guidance to organizations and how they should even approach, leave alone navigate? We come to navigation, but how should they approach this entire concept of embedding security and resilience within the, and especially from the endpoint, within the very fabric?
As we said, this should be embedded as a part of the overall digital transformation journey roadmap, where the behavior, it leads to a new behavior, as such from an employee standpoint, as well as from a data standpoint or process standpoint. That has to be from an if you look at an organizational change perspective, rather than a one-off function as such. So it is an employee experience tied up with the overall end objective, the customer experience, and embarking on the digital transformation journey with both organizational change management and the net new behavior that is going to emerge as a part of this overall journey. That plays a very predominant role, I would say, from an organizational standpoint.
Brilliant. But I do have a view on the clock, gentlemen. I know you've got hard schedules ahead. I'm just going to sneak in one more question each. Piyush, with your permission, one big trend that you observed that you think is going to, well, boom in perhaps the months and the years to come from the concepts of the future of work?
The one big concept that I feel is going to happen is that collaboration in itself will kind of evolve and transform in a very new form in the days to come, because the tools that we are going to use are all tools of the past. Yeah. But the workforce of the future, at least what we have seen during and you would have seen, let's say, I will give a very simple example, a Miro board. Yeah. Its demand went out of the roof. Yeah. People never thought that people will collaborate and create ideas on a board remotely. Yeah. People said it is ineffective, but only COVID had to prove that these are things which are effective. And so examples like that, in which people had fixed mindsets, in which saying that some things don't work in a particular fashion, but I think digital will tell them that there are a lot of newer ways of doing things which are much better and much effective. And I think those things will evolve over a period of time as people experiment and stay home and still be productive in the future.
Thank you. Sesh, I come to you with the same question. If COVID were to be viewed as perhaps an unnatural catalyst to developing trends, one big trend you see that's going to kind of really take off from the concept of the future of work?
One of the key things that I would look in the post-COVID world is the emergence of AI, which is embedded in our daily lives as well as in the workforce all through the journey. Unlike earlier times, AI was to be embedded as an external force, but now it has become a part of that underlying journey of digital transformation and the digital dexterity of the organization. And as Piyush said, the COVID situation has driven the innovation beyond what we had imagined, what would have been the next 5 years. So we have seen innovation, especially the open innovation platforms emerging out in a much more quicker way, to more experimentations that has happened within the organizations, that has emerged. And I see the last, not the least, would be the emergence of 5G would really have a positive impact in the growth. For example, in automobile industry, I would say security plays a very critical role in the connected market. You're seeing a pattern that's shifting from being an automobile company, being a manufacturer of automobiles, to a more of a solution provider, which leads to an emergence of an ecosystem, a collaborative ecosystem of startup companies, MSMEs, security startup companies, or cloud native companies as well. So it has led to an emergence of a platform-driven economy rather than a technology-driven economy, I would say.
Fantastic, gentlemen. But that's pretty much what we have time for in this episode today. Piyush, Sesh, it has been nothing short of a privilege to have been in dialogue with you. Very grateful, heartfelt gratitude. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Arjun.
Thank you, panelists and Arjun. Excellent takeaways for IT and digital transformation leaders from that discussion, I must say. To sum up for our attendees, we discussed how may organizations change the way they view device modernization? What is the new guidance to changing the way the workforce interacts with devices? And why device transformation is a critical starting point for workplace transformation. Dear delegates, do remember to fill out the feedback form at the end of today's webinar. Your feedback is invaluable as it helps us improve the content, structure, and presentation of our webinars and virtual conferences. Ladies and gentlemen, our next session is an interesting panel discussion with workplace solution experts from Microsoft and Dell Technologies. Strategy Chief Research Officer, Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, will be in conversation with Mr. Saji Kumar, Director of M&A Alliances at Microsoft India, and Mr. Pavitra Kumar, Product Specialist, Endpoint Security at Dell Technologies India. They will discuss how businesses should reimagine their approach to security. How can they leverage security solutions to protect against unknown threats? And how endpoint security can serve as the first line of defense against security threats and cyber attacks. Over to you, Arjun and guests.
Hello and welcome. I'm Arjun Vishwanathan, and I'm going to be your host today in what promises to be a fascinating set of discussions around the whole concepts of the future of work. Joining me are eminent folks from the industry. Without further ado, please put your hands together for Pavitra Kumar, Product Specialist Endpoint Security at Dell Technologies. Pavitra, welcome. Delighted that you could join us.
Thanks, Arjun. Same here.
And none other than Saji Kumar, Director, M&A Alliances at Microsoft. Saji, welcome. Wonderful to have you with us.
Thank you so much, and extremely glad to be here in this forum.
Outstanding. We've got about 30 minutes of very focused discussions, gentlemen, and I'm going to directly jump into it. The preamble to this conversation, this dialogue really, Saji and Pavitra, is that with the change in work models, the question also becomes important regarding how organizations should change perhaps the way they view the concepts of work, and therefore the whole concept of the device, which is central to the experience of an employee that is remotely working. And therefore, as organizations today realize that the established concepts of collaboration and innovation that need to be decomposed, with a newer parlance to innovation riding pillion on security. And it is in that backdrop, Saji, that I'm going to come to you with the first question really is, over the last 10 months have shown us how the very concept of work seems to have very, very radically changed. It has perhaps changed like never before and is perhaps here to stay. From that concept, Saji Kumar, my question to you is, how do you at Microsoft view the whole concept of the evolution of work happening, therefore moving to the future of work? Saji Kumar.
Yeah, I think, thank you, Arjun. First of all, thank you for inviting me as a part of this panel. Extremely glad to be here along with, Pavitra from Dell and yourself. Talking about digital transformation and how Microsoft is looking at things, right? First of all, let's understand that digital transformation is nothing new. Even if you look at the pre-COVID era, we are all used to the shift from an analog to a digital world, right? Be it your own professional space or your personal space. Think about your hotel booking, ticket booking, anything of that sort. We all have moved to digital long ago. But what this situation, this pandemic in the last 9 to 10 months, what has happened is the shift has, kind of what would have happened in maybe a 10 years period has happened in a 10 months period. That's what even our CEO said in one of the forums, right? So let me reiterate that this is nothing new. Transformation from analog to digital, nothing new. But the pace at which just moved has been phenomenal, right? Today, this is going to stay. The hybrid model is here to stay, right? Digital workspace. When you say the modern, workspace or the digital workspace, it's not just a business enabling tool. You have to look at it in such a way that it also helps augment the employee's productivity. And also for the organization, it should give a cost optimization. Flexibility is the key word today, because no more you are going to work sitting in a single room, or using the same kind of devices or the same kind of software applications or the same kind of OS applications and stuff like that. So what is important is, how do you integrate the multiple form factor devices? How do you integrate multiple platforms? How do you also give the employees the best of the connectivity in terms of integrating all these things together?
Very
Yeah.
interesting, because that's one point that I'm going to increasingly take. You brought out a beautiful point, Saji, on the whole concept of flexibility. Now, Pavitra, I come to you. It's fairly established as a fact now that the traditional office as we knew it, the traditional workplace as we knew it, stands decomposed as we speak, and increasingly with remote work now taking precedence. But with remote work, what is interesting is that there is now a convergence or a blurring of lines between the physical and the virtual, the physical and the digital. In that kind of a concept, Saji spoke about flexibility. How, from Dell's perspective, Pavitra, do you work towards enabling the wider industry on concepts of flexibility and experience?
Okay, great. Thanks once again, Arjun, for again having me in this panel along with Saji. So, coming back to the point on how Dell is managing these, or see, when we talk about Dell, we would also have to understand that it's not only for our customers. Dell as a whole also is going through the same process as what we are going to explain it to our customers as well. So, on the one hand, when we say that this is a transformation for our customers, the same transformation is happening within Dell as well. So with COVID, because that is I guess the main point of discussion, or that is why all these things have come up into picture. The focus has been completely on endpoint security. So the users who used to be within a secure parameter now are completely now outside of that parameter. So their own individual devices have become their personal parameters per se. So your security do not have a direct visibility on them in case of a regular situation. So you do not have that. So suddenly we had all our different personas, users move into a remote persona. So what this did was this brought uh, for a lot of new challenges to the existing tools that we were using, as these were not flexible for remote workforce. So these were not designed for that. And what Saji very truly mentioned, that because these changes of what could have happened within the next 10 years has happened within 10 months. So most of the companies were not prepared for this. So they might have had a longer roadmap, but they do not have anything in hand right now. So that is, I guess, from where Dell is thinking of these situations. And luckily, we were one of those people who were already prepared to foresee a situation like this. Maybe a good management call at the start, but then in Dell we were already into a remote workspace kind of a situation, wherein we had given our employees some time out within the week span, like 2 or 3 days of work from home kind of a situation and all that. So so I guess that is where I would say that the flexibility of workforce, or integration of the things, would come into picture.
Interesting, very interesting. Because Saji, I'm going to flip that around and bring it to you, uh, which is that now increasingly what we're also seeing, and what really has come forth, is that there are newer jobs, newer roles, newer tasks that are being devised or are cropping up by themselves, leading to different metrics of productivity. Now, in all of this, how central do you think is the device in its play towards redefining what the new roles, what the new tasks, new responsibilities, and therefore the new productive and productivity metrics will be?
Absolutely. I think we all know for the fact that the employee experience is definitely linked to better productivity. Gone are those days where we talk only about a customer experience, but today it's equally critical that the employee experience is also the best in the industry, right? That is directly linked to productivity. uh, you asked a question about how devices play a role. Devices play a very important role in this overall productivity ecosystem what I'm talking about, because today people want total flexibility and scalability, not just confined to one particular device or a platform or an application, because the environment should make them productive anywhere, any time of the day, and as per their convenience. this digital workplace is deeply integrated in our own, when I say our own, Microsoft's culture, whether it's our products and services, etc. You look at products like the Microsoft Azure IoT or a Microsoft Dynamic 365 or the M365. These products are designed in such a way that it enhances the productivity of the device. When Dell and Microsoft come together, right, these products enhances the devices of the enhances the productivity of the Dell devices. It creates efficiency in the system, enables accessibility, at the same time eliminates friction. That gives the employee the freedom to work anywhere, any point in time, either individually or collaboratively.
Interesting, because Pavitra, that brings me to a question that's been running through all our minds. And in fact, I speak on behalf of this wonderful audience that's tuning in today, is that the concept that data is capital is increasingly transforming to the concept that data is now a strategic business asset.
Yes.
Now, if that were to be so, it is also to be taken into account that the vast copious amounts of volumes of data that are being generated on endpoint devices or on localized devices. Of course, leading to a situation which could be worrisome. Now, as an endpoint security specialist, how do you work with organizations to ensure comprehensive endpoint security without infringing on the flexibility, freedom, and convenience of the end user?
Sure. So, what you said, I'll put it in another term. So, what we call it as is that data is the new oil, as we would want to put it into the open term. So, what Dell believes is the fundamental pillar for endpoint security that encompasses remote and eventually the offices basically are divided into three broader points. First would be cloud managed and delivered. Then you have behavioral prevention and consolidation. So I'll just take a few minutes in order to just explain you that how we would want to put it forward. So starting with maybe cloud managed and delivered. So cloud is a greater enabler today, and by leveraging cloud, we can deliver security regardless of the teams or the location of a user. So they may be connected from a home, they may be connected from office or maybe a cafe or an airport, and mind you that most of these locations would be unsecured networks because either they would be free Wi-Fi or there would be a certain period of an Wi-Fi that will be utilized, but these are mostly unsecured networks. So they would receive the same level of security with this, and similarly, the security team would retain visibility and enforce the protection seamlessly too. Now, second, behavioral prevention. So what this means is that security has always been reactive so far. So what the traditional industry has been, it has been reactive. So now, obviously, the gone are those days when we took samples and we would wrote antidotes for a malware A or a malware B. So that's not going to happen today. So today's adversaries are much more advanced. So we have to leverage tools that we trust into cyber attacks, and security tools need to leverage the context and identify if an application is moving beyond its trusted boundaries. And that is how we come to the point that we have to be prepared within behavioral prevention. The last piece to this would be consolidation, and that's the most important piece because this is where the flexibility or coping up with the situation would come into picture. So with the power of cloud comes consolidation. So rather than having multiple tools or consoles or an agent, IT and security can collaborate with a single pane of glass management and a single agent that detects, protects, and responds to the threats that give insight to IT hygiene and vulnerabilities. So, so in a way, we can say it's gonna be more of a teamwork going forward instead of having multiple teams doing different jobs. Although we would require specialists on that particular field, but when it comes to monitoring things and doing other work, we would want to see more consolidation, is what I would say.
Thank you for that. That's very expansive because Sajid, I'm going to come to you. I think what we've discussed over the last 15 minutes really points to the fact that organizations must invest in modernization today to counter challenges perhaps that they do not even know are waiting. From that perspective, Sajid, how, from Microsoft's point of view, as well as the Microsoft Dell Association, how are you folks enabling industry to modernize in such manner that they're able to steam along in a more confident manner, in a more secure manner, in a more collaborative and innovative and growth oriented manner?
So I think let me take a quote from our CEO Satya Nadella. He said that the modern engineer regarding the modern engineering practices, he summarized in a way that in order to deliver the experiences our customer need for the mobile first or a cloud first world, we will modernize our engineering process to be customer obsessed, data driven, speed oriented, and quality focused. I think this summarizes the best way because it covers everything what we spoke about today, right? Because in this age of lightning speed connectivity, when you talk about the connected devices play, etc., they all play a very key role in the emerging fields of IoT or artificial intelligence, blockchain, whatever we talk about. So you cannot ignore the importance of the modern devices and modernization in today's world. Otherwise, you will be left out, compared to your competitor, whatever it is. Because as the modern workplace shift towards digital innovation and employee expectations continue to change, those companies who don't embrace digital transformation in the workplace to improve the employee experience will absolutely be at risk going forward. So it is very, very important that every organization understand this. I can even refer to some of the statistics here, because it says that 64% of the employees are willing to accept a lower salary if it means that they can work remotely. This is something which came out from a research which we did recently. And organizations and brands with a very strong social network experience can boost of more than 75% in productivity levels. There are various such reports which clearly shows that why digital workspaces are becoming more and more critical for your business continuity.
Thanks, thanks, Ajay. I particularly like that research survey and the 64% of the employees. Seriously, like to meet them. But Pavitra, if I could come to you, um, what therefore begs attention is this whole concept that how what really is your essential guidance to the buyer organizations, Indian industry, on how they should look at the whole concepts of modernization, security, without compromising on innovation, freedom, and collaboration. What is your guidance?
So see, it would be very difficult to say the whole thing on the guidance perspective. But see, when we talk about modernization and security, couple of things that would come into mind would be that you need to have things in place wherein the user should have the control, but not to that extent that he would be able to make changes within your parameter. So one thing is that organization should have the complete setup being ready before they deliver the solution to the end user. So let me take an example from our own company for that matter. So if today I'm using a Latitude laptop, before it has been handed over to me, there would be a set of things which would be installed by my IT to make sure that I have a secured network, I have the complete connectivity, and the things would be taken care of. So this is where the company at the first instance itself is taking a proactive stand in order to make sure that all the available technologies have been given. Now, in these situations of COVID era today, if I'm not going to office for a very longer span, also there isn't any need to go, because I have everything being delivered over here, and as and when there would be some updates that will be pushed out. So IT hardware, IT software play an equal role when it comes to modernization and for having a complete secured infrastructure for that matter is what I would say. So guidance would be a bit challenging word for me. I'm really sorry to put it that way, but it's a very broad prospect in order to suggest that what should be done, because there are a lot of things from a company perspective that what they can do, uh, versus what they have already done and what there needs to be done for their existing infrastructure.
Interesting. Thanks. Thanks, Pavis. That very candid, of course. Saji, important question to you also, therefore, from Microsoft's perspective. Uh, See, employee experience, device experience by itself is not just about the device, but various layers. How at Microsoft are you innovating? Or let me phrase this in another manner. At Microsoft, do you when you're creating suites and platforms and softwares for team collaboration and so on and so forth, how are you approaching the whole concept of security? And a very important question in that is, does the concept of zero trust kind of figure in the overall ecosystem of things? Saji Kumar.
Yeah, I think, see, we all spoke about, even Pavitra spoke about the importance of security, right? Because, we all have known the importance of security, especially when you're working from a remote environment. Like, he touched upon saying that whether you're working from a cafeteria or you're working from an airport and stuff like that, right? Security plays a very, very, very key important role. So even any of the products which you talk about from Microsoft Stable, starting from our latest Windows 10 Pro, I think security plays a very, very key important role. It has an inbuilt Windows Defender, which is an antivirus which has got an built-in intelligence feature by itself, so that it creates multiple checkpoints to ensure that there are no attacks which happen to your system, right? And moreover, when you speak about how the culture of innovation is built in the company, I think we strongly believe that the leaders must establish a culture of innovation when it comes to evaluating the workplace technology, because a willingness to rapidly replace those legacy systems which are more prone to attacks and more prone to malwares and stuff like that. We have heard a lot of stories about some of the banks losing millions of dollars overnight because of the security risk and stuff like that. So security is a very, very key important parameter in every product of Microsoft, be it from a design standpoint or a service standpoint. We call out this very, very specifically in our product delivery to the customer.
Stunning. So a similar question, Pavitra. Does the concept of zero trust, do you feel that is relevant and pertinent in today's ecosystem of sorts, industry ecosystem of sorts, where really you don't know what to expect?
Absolutely, absolutely. So that is the reason why we have been emphasizing on these technologies per se. So when we talk about an endpoint security, so if I would have to put this uh, zero trust into another alternate for that would be a kind of a situation wherein you do not know that what is going to happen in the next minute itself. So you used to have vulnerabilities which you can foresee, and now you have a situation wherein you do not have any visibility on it, and out of the blue there would be something new that will just pop up on your screen, and you would not have anything to do with that. So 0 day vulnerabilities, you can put it in that way. So we have already seen that how big of a challenge that could be, and how much losses a company can bear with that. So newer technologies which have been coming from the last 1 decade or so have been completely focusing on this, and that is the reason why Dell specifically understood that this is where the consumer requirement would be, particularly for Dell as that matter, and for Dell's customer also. So that is the reason why, although we were managing these services, or we were more focused on these technologies from a third party standpoint, but eventually Dell put its stake on Carbon Black, VMware Carbon Black, which was a recent acquisition that we did about a couple of quarters back. So with the help of VMware. So this is whole point wherein we understood that how artificial intelligence or your machine learning models would play a big role in future, and evolving the threats that are going to come in the future, and we were already prepared for this. Now we don't know that what would happen in the next 5 years. There would be further more to this, because we already see that these things, or the vulnerabilities what we see today are starting to use good known resources itself. So we are prepared for this at this point, and tomorrow there would be some more challenges thrown to our end. So again, so this innovation would keep on continuing. So we would have to go with a frame of mind that we don't know that is what is going to happen tomorrow. This is COVID today. We might unfortunately or fortunately might end up with some other situation. So we have to be readily prepared for these things.
Fantastic. Thank you, gentlemen. That was brilliant. But I really do have a view on the clock, and I know you both have very hard schedules as we go ahead. I want to quickly sneak in one question. Saji Kumar, as you look into the future, as you look forward, one big bet that you see Microsoft planning to take, or perhaps ambling towards or moving towards, as far as the device and the overall concepts of work are concerned? Saji.
I think we clearly understand as a part of the overall strategy, right, how important is digitization and modernization of IT. So we clearly understood the importance of this, and that is where we are working towards.
Standing. Thank you. And Pavitra, same question to you. One big trend that you think is going to be mainstream over the coming months, maybe the next year or so?
So what we have seen and what I've been reading is that I guess this is something what Saji already touched upon basically. But then the trend from a working from home situation or from outside of your parameter is going to continue. So companies would have to invest more on technologies wherein IT infrastructure. Again, when I talk about IT infrastructure, it could be your hardwares or your for that matter your laptops or your these thin clients or your tablets would have to be considered, and then along with this the security would eventually play a bigger role. So working from home or from a remote location outside of your regular parameter is gonna stay because as what has been pointed out earlier, there is substantial data which shows that it is very productive. Companies are not losing anything out of it, because that was the apprehension that what Indian organization initially had, that would they lose control over their employees, how they are going to work outside
That
of the
is
parameters. Yeah, so those things are all been taken care of. So we ourselves are able to see that the productivity has increased eventually, because employees are happy to continue working the way that they are. Once in a while going to the office meeting the guys would not be any harm, but other than that, this is a trend that is going to continue. And I see that most of the emphasis from companies and from government would also be towards data privacy and data security.
indeed. Thank you, gentlemen, but that's pretty much what we have time for. It's been fascinating speaking with you. Thank you so much, Saji, Pavitra. Delighted.
It
Thank
was
you,
a real
Arjun. Thank
pleasure.
you.
Great,
Pleasure.
great to have a word with you.
For the audience, stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment. You were with Arjun Vishwanathan in conversation with Saji Kumar from Microsoft and Pavitra Kumar from Dell Technologies. Stay tuned.
That was a truly insightful deep dive. Thank you, Mr. Saji Kumar and Mr. Pavitra Kumar. Thank you, Arjun, for bringing us another absorbing conversation with IT security experts. Dear delegates, do remember to fill out the feedback form at the end of today's webinar. Your feedback is invaluable as it helps us improve the content, structure, and presentation of our webinars and virtual conferences. That's all we have for you. We hope you enjoyed this webinar mini-series on reshaping tomorrow with modern device solutions enabled with robust endpoint security. On behalf of Dell Technologies, Microsoft, Intel, and Strategic Solutions, I thank you for attending and our panelists and expert speakers for enriching us with their experience and insights. We look forward to hosting you for our next webinar series on an equally engaging theme. Until then, take care, stay safe. May your workplace and workforce be truly transformed and secured with the right devices and endpoint security. This is Ushma Tyagi signing off on behalf of Strategic Solutions.